What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the MME YouTube channel, where we're here to guide, facilitate, and educate you on your holistic wellness journey. My name is Tyler Egan, and I will be your wellness mentor and educator for today's video. And in today's video, I want to talk about a topic that might feel a little bit heavy or uncomfortable. Like I already feel myself getting emotional as I'm about to say the word. I want to talk about something a little heavy, maybe something a bit sensitive or emotional. That is the feeling, the sensation, the experience of shame. And I want to talk about why shame is a really good thing. Now, I can already hear my own mental stories, my own psychology kind of resisting and fighting that as I say it, because the last year to 3 years really, I have been moving through releasing and alchemizing a tremendous amount of shame that I had been storing, harboring, if you will, in my body. And it has been so fucking freeing that I really want to share why moving through that energy while in the thick of it isn't going to feel good. I'll be real, it's gonna probably be painful as fuck, especially in the beginning, but it is ultimately so worth it and brings such a sense of relief, a sense of freedom. And if you have a lot of aspirations and dreams of your own in your life that you want to fulfill, it can bring so much clarity towards the path you're heading to moving forward. So let's talk about shame, and let's just look at the facts for a moment, right? Shame is uncomfortable, right? It brings the sense of I'm not good enough, or I'm unworthy, or the story I personally used to play in my mind was I'm a loser, right? That all the time, the chatter in my mind whenever I would do something that felt like embarrassing was it would immediately, I wouldn't notice, I didn't have the emotional awareness yet to understand what it was I felt. I was more identified with my egoic mind that I would just hear the story of I'm a loser and all of the chapters of that story that played out, all the different sub-stories that came into fruition from the bigger story of I'm a loser. So like the feelings of shame are usually really dense and heavy, right? They're not comfortable. They don't feel right. And many of us growing up in this world, this society, the culture that we live in, this Western world, is we find ourselves avoiding these feelings through various avenues, right? Whether you're anything like me and you would seek out complete emotional avoidance, and I turned to alcohol. That was my coping thing, alcohol. Then it was weed. I would use pornography at times. Which was ironic now that I'm saying this out loud, topic for a different day. I would use just sharing my feelings with people as a form of escaping it, because when somebody validated what I was feeling, it was like almost reaffirming, not almost, I'm gonna remove the almost, it was reaffirming that same story that I had been playing in my mind, that I'm a loser. Now, it was a necessary step for me to learn what my feelings felt like and then express them to people, giving me the opportunity to begin to hear my own vocal cords verbalize what shame not only now felt like, because I had an understanding, but what it sounded like coming out of my mouth. What the words were, what the stories were. And then from there, I could then begin to do the work on it. But that's a topic, we'll come back to that. So looking at the facts of it all, shame is something that is so uncomfortable. It's so easy to avoid. We're essentially taught to avoid it at such a young age. I mean, I don't know about any of you, but how many of the adults, the authority figures in your life, and I don't mean this to come from a place of blame by any stretch of the imagination, but how many of the people that you may have looked up to, whether it was teachers, parents, siblings, co-workers later in life, or aunts, uncles, grandparents, how many of them avoided their feelings? I mean, in today's world, again, I'm just looking at like what seems to me as the hard, cold facts. It is easier than ever to avoid our feelings, in a sense, because we have so much technology. But these feelings, these emotions, these energies are becoming so goddamn dense that it's becoming harder and harder for us to avoid it. And if you're watching this video, then you're probably here where it's like, you can't avoid it anymore. So you're looking to face it head on. Shame is a really good thing. So why is that? Now, the reason I say that shame is a really good thing is because if we look at some of these lower negative, potentially negative emotions that we feel, these energies that we feel, like sadness or depression or anger, grief, I already said sadness, shame, embarrassment, like what these lower emotions, the role they play in our development is to give us an understanding of things that align with us and don't align with us. You know, like if you punch somebody in the face and you feel ashamed of yourself afterwards, I mean, again, it's a pretty simple example, but as children, these simple examples help define us and send us on a new trajectory in life. So if you recognize that punching somebody in the face makes you feel ashamed, you're not going to go do that again, right? But then later in life, when we avoid these sensations of shame for so long because we don't want to go against the grain of society or the cultures within our family or the cultures within the workplace, that pattern of shame becomes so neurologically ingrained into the fabric of our humanness that we continue to do it. The reason we continue to do it is because the more and more it becomes neurologically wired into the fabric of our human being, the more and more we create this feedback loop. Now, the human brain is such a fantastic piece of equipment that what it does is it creates these habitual patterns, right? Whether it's a pattern of going to the bathroom every morning upon waking up or drinking your morning cup of coffee, or a neurological pattern of feeling that sensation of shame because it goes through these patterns to conserve our energy. All of us are like a cell phone battery. We have only X amount of energy throughout the day. Now, these patterns of shame become so neurologically wired in, they create this feedback loop where you'll unintentionally, maybe, we'll just say, unintentionally do something that makes you feel ashamed of yourself, leading you to blame yourself, get mad at yourself. And then that negativity kind of spirals and swirls and builds up, and then you go and you do something else that maybe sabotages your progress on your spiritual journey, on your physical healing journey, whatever it is. And then now you're stuck in this loop, right? It starts by you accidentally messing up at work. Your boss says something to you that makes you feel ashamed. It triggers an old wound inside of your heart. And now you're like, oh, I should have done this better. I should have done that better. I suck. If you're me, your story's coming in, it's kicking in. It's like, I'm a loser. You're never going to amount to anything. You'll always be a failure, whatever your story sounds like. And then that negativity kind of just swirls up in here. It builds up, and then you do something else that sabotages your progress, and it builds up. And again, now you're just stuck in this feedback loop. So then the question becomes, well, I already kind of talked about why it's a good thing, right? So first things first, it's good because it can teach us what it is that does and does not align with us in our life. Now, where it goes wrong is when we get stuck in these feedback loops. So then the question becomes, how do we break these feedback loops? And there's a concept I want to introduce to you about pattern interruption, right? Many of us are good at seeing other people's patterns, right? Like you have a coworker that does something you don't like, that's toxic, and you can recognize it and then maybe even call them out on it. You have to begin to cultivate the inner awareness to see yourself doing that. To see yourself caught in this feedback loop of shame and self-sabotage. And when that pattern kicks in again, you step in the middle of it, right? Like let's just say the glass of water is the pattern, and the water is the buildup of energy and negativity from your pattern of shame and self-sabotage, and it's about to burst again, it's about to tip over, but you stop it right there in its tracks, right in the middle of it. Now, when you do this, it's going to feel ungodly fucking uncomfortable. Like if you come home from work and you're feeling ashamed and maybe you vent to your partner, your spouse, your siblings, like whoever it is, and instead you recognize that their validation of your feelings is just going to keep you stuck in the pattern, what you then can do is sit with the uncomfortable, sit in the fire with that raw negativity, that raw fucking energy. And the more and more you sit in the fire with it, the more and more you can begin to redirect it. You can channel it. You can alchemize that energy, that fear-driven energy towards the path that you want to go on in life. But until you learn to sit in the fire with that and cultivate that inner awareness, what your shame feels like where do you feel it the most? Personally, when I feel ashamed, my breath my breathing patterns constrict a little bit. So I can't get into much of a deep breath. I usually feel it in my hips. And if I'm a little out of tune with my body, there becomes it's almost like a lot of pressure on my temples. So you can begin to cultivate the inner awareness by feeling into what your body is experiencing. And then, or even beforehand, wherever it ends up in your individual journey, like listen to your mind. What does it sound like? What are the words it's saying? What are the stories it's trying to articulate to you? Is it something your mom told you about you when you were a kid? Or is it something that your dad always yelled at you about? Maybe it was a teacher who scolded you and that was a story you adapted. And each time, because this is something, I want to say this for myself as much for me as for any of you. Each time you break that pattern of shame and self-sabotage, each time you get in the middle of it, and then even if it's for 2 fucking minutes, okay, I'm emphasizing that with the word fuck here for myself more than anybody. Even if it's for 2 minutes, you sit in the fire with that feeling of shame. You are breaking the pattern, and it's going to fracture off a little bit more. And the strength of that feedback loop will dwindle down. And each time you step in the middle, you break that feedback loop, you are cultivating a new one. And eventually you will harness enough of your own energy, you'll take back enough of your own energy from that shame, and you can redirect it and alchemize it towards something more powerful. Now, if you're already there, I just want to say this. Usually when this happens, it can lead to a sensation of rage or anger in some capacity, frustration in some capacity. It's so easy to not lean into that anger. I'm not saying take it out on anybody. What I'm saying is use that raw energy. There's a lot of power in anger and the associated feelings that go along with it. You can use that. So I hope this helps you on your path to healing shame, because shame isn't inherently a bad thing. It's when we get stuck in that shame, self-sabotaging cycle that can really be a thorn in literally every part of the fucking body. So I hope this video helps you break your feedback loop of shame and self-sabotage and helps you heal your pattern of shame. Thank you all for tuning in. If you took anything from this video, we'd appreciate it if you could leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace out.